Thank you for downloading Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. In this episode, Sam and I recap our round 2 series sweep against the Toronto Raptors. We talk about K-Love's emergence, Ty Lue's rotations, Rodney Hood's fourth quarter pity party, and we look ahead to the Eastern Conference Finals. We also want to mention, if you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns, check out our Browns podcast, the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast. I'm joined by Browns insider Jeremy Anacrin, and we bring you the very best Browns coverage and analysis you'll find in podcast form. We are the premier Cleveland Browns podcast. You can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check us out on Twitter at Orange is Oranger. All right, here it is. Sam and I with your round 2 recap.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. I am your host, Chase Smith, and with me, Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico of AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. Sam, what's up, man?
Another day, another sweep, right? Or another season, another sweep. Cavs have had one every year since LeBron's been back. So there you go.
Unbelievable that round 2 is already over. We didn't even get to do any special game recaps because the series is over too quick. 4 games. Sam, right off the bat, just what on earth got into the Cavs for them to play this good of basketball? Not only efficient offensively, but defensively too.
Especially, yeah, that's very true. Especially if you saw Game 4, how they were flying around defensively, closing out on shooters, getting in passing lanes, all the things that everybody said all season that they weren't doing. Yep. They did that in Game 4. They really played with a lot of energy. They played with a lot of energy the whole series, and I think that played a huge role. And look, Kyle Korver and J.R. Smith all except for Game 3,
he
really got going.
He was sick.
He was sick that game, right? 0 for 2, 0 points. But those guys, J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver, were aggressive in looking for their shots, and they were making their shots. And then guess what else happened, Chase? Kevin Love came around, finally. And that's been – he stepped up as the true number 2 option, had a great series, just like last season. Did not play well against Indiana, even though different teams did not play well against Indiana. And came around against Toronto. So the same thing happened as last year. And lo and behold, they may face the Boston Celtics again in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And so here's what I want to talk about with you. I want to talk about K-Love. I want to talk about George Hill and our rotation, which will lead us to Rodney Hood. All right. And then I want to kind of talk about a little bit about the Raptors and what's next in store for them. But let's talk about Kevin Love. And I think this started in Toronto, maybe at the tail end of the Indiana series. But one of the biggest changes I've seen in his game is, man, he protects the rim. He is a force underneath. I went and watched Game 3, like in this, and man, he was blocking shots, getting rebounds. I mean, he was a force, and I had not seen that out of him in a long time. And I think, you know, if you play basketball, you always hear defense feeds offense. And I think that could be true. What did you see difference in Kevin Love as he's playing here for the Cavs into this number 2 role as he should be?
Well, you're right. Defensively, he had 2 block shots in the fourth quarter, or in the first quarter of Game 4. That's 2 block shots in the first quarter of Game 4. Well, guess how many block shots he had in all 7 games combined against Indiana? 2. Wow. So you're right in saying that he really stepped up defensively in terms of being more aggressive and going for blocks. He didn't really do that much during the regular season or against Indiana. And I think that something in this series kind of set him off in terms of people saying he's not a rim protector, he's terrible defensively. Kevin Love is a social media freak. He is always on social media. So he sees that stuff. And, you know, maybe he turned some of that into motivation. Maybe he just started to feel more comfortable once his shots started dropping. Yeah. You know, and I think once they got that Game 1 out of the way and they won Game 1, I think Kevin Love thought, you know what, this is our series. And if I step up, we're gonna make quick work of these guys, which he certainly did. So I think more than anything, Chase, he just played with so much more confidence than he did against Indiana and in game one against Toronto. I think his confidence level went up, and that's always been kind of his thing is, if he sees a few shots drop, he's going to play with great confidence. Or if the team around him is continuing to build him up and telling him, keep going, keep looking for shots because they need him, So it's interesting. Kind of LeBron made those comments a couple weeks ago about, Kevin needs to step up. We need him. He's our guy. And since then, Kevin's Love has played very well.
So game one, and let's say this, I think the Raptors lost game one rather than the Cavs won that game.
That's very true.
Layups. It was an overtime thriller. And I think it is such a mental, it seems like it's very mental for the Toronto Raptors. Game two, the Cavaliers just took names in Toronto. It wasn't even close. Game three, the Brown with the floater. And then game four was honestly one of the worst elimination games I've seen from a team, and I don't even know when. I don't want to say I've ever seen because I've watched a lot of basketball, but I can't remember, Sam, a more pathetic elimination playoff, like from the first seed in the East team. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, well, I think it was franchise record in wins, 59 wins, and had played the Cavs, even though they lost, played the Cavs pretty tough. But, you're a team like Toronto, you hear all year going into that series, well, is LeBron's probably in their heads. Can they beat LeBron? They're not going to beat LeBron. And sure enough, they play out of their minds for the most part in game one and still lose. They found a way to lose, even though LeBron didn't score a point in that overtime period. So
unbelievable.
And then game two, you come out and you're just mentally defeated. And LeBron, those shots that LeBron was making in game two, those are the shots they wanted him to take. Fading away from the basket off one leg, well guarded. He was just making them, So, and then once you get up 3-0 on a team and you have home court the next game, that's pretty much, again, I thought Toronto played pretty well in the first half of game four, and you look up at the scoreboard, they're down 16. So it's Toronto, just a terrible matchup for them.
Game three, they played super physical, which I think was a little bit different in games one and two, almost to the point where they looked intentional, to a foul.
Sure, they were trying to be more physical because they thought that was the only way they could win, but unfortunately for them, they kept fouling, and that did them no good.
All right, so Sam, help us figure this out. They struggled to the brink against the Pacers in the first series, pushed them to game seven. Very hard fought, very physical, really gave the Cavs a challenge. And then with the number one seed in the East, the Cavs take care of business in four. Is that because the Cavs match up better with the Raptors and the Pacers are just a hard matchup? Or is it more of the Cavs are clicking? And I like the Richard Jefferson Vine. The Cavs are playing playoff basketball. Is it, or a little bit of both? Kind of where are we at there?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that Indiana is a very tough matchup for them because they are physical and they are athletic and they do play hard for 48 minutes every night. That's how Indiana played all season. They're not as talented as a lot of teams, but they are a better team than a lot of teams because of the way they play and how well they're coached. And then a rising star in Oladipo, they just play. That's just their kind of their fortes. That's the Pacers' new style of basketball. Is they're going to play super hard and come after you. That's not to say the Raptors didn't, but I think that the Cavs didn't have it totally together other than LeBron against Indiana. They sure did against Toronto. They started to get Kevin Love going. George Hill, if you see George Hill was missing in some of those Indiana games, and that really hurt them. That really hurt Kevin Love because those two play very well together and play very well off of each other. And with George Hill being healthy, that's, I think, a big reason Kevin Love was so good against Toronto.
And I want to come back and touch on George Hill in just a moment, and because I think Ty Lue is involved with that a little bit. But is this round two sweep more of an indictment on the Raptors or more of a this is just how good LeBron is?
Oh, it's just how good LeBron is. The Raptors did not play bad in game two. I thought that the Raptors played a lot of good basketball in this series, with the exception of game four, the second half of game four. I think they played, game 2. I thought the Raptors played well. Obviously, game 1 they played very well. Game 2, they played great. I thought it was just too much LeBron. It reminds me of the old, Cavs back in the day when Michael Jordan did. Those Cavs were great teams, but Michael Jordan kept beating them. And guess what? Michael Jordan single-handedly tore apart a lot of franchises by beating them. And that may be what LeBron James did. And I know we're gonna talk about this in a minute, but that may be what LeBron James did to these Raptors, a very good, talented team that may end up firing the coach, that may end up gutting the roster, that may end up trading a superstar.
Yep.
Why? Because of one player's greatness, and they just happen to be on the wrong side of that. If you're the Raptors,
you look at LeBron's resume with that. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and I just going down the line. He's dismantled this Raptors squad. He, when he was on the Heat, kind of took care of business of the Celtics. Right? He stomped on Derrick Rose's Bulls. He would destroy a Hawks team that was very similar to the Raps team. Al Horford, Kyle Korver, all these guys, Paul Millsap, all these great players. He's looked down the line, and all of a sudden, he has sent franchises to the lottery more. He has gotten more opposing coaches fired, and probably his own coaches fired as well. But this, he is just this force that the entire East cannot figure out. Sam, they can't figure it out.
Well, look at the Cavs situation after he left for Miami. I mean, they went on the massive tailspin, the likes of which the NBA had never seen. They started to bounce back slowly but surely with draft picks and good luck in the lottery. Mm-hmm. But where were they headed if he didn't come back? Maybe the 7th seed, first round exit.
Very Charlotte Hornets-ish, I would say.
Right. Yes, with a dynamic player in Kyrie Irving. That's where they were headed.
Ceiling probably a little higher. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there was no.
Well, I don't know. We had Deion Waiters, and I think he could have taken us to the finals.
Deion Waiters, Andrew Wiggins, Kyrie Irving. They would have been an exciting young team.
Unbelievable.
I think they would have spent a lot of time spinning their wheels.
Oh,
he
100%.
Comes back, and listen to this stat, Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this stat.
I'm ready.
The most consecutive sweeps in NBA playoff history. LeBron James, in other words, they've had a sweep in every year. LeBron James has had one every year for 6 straight years.
Wow.
Well, guess who's tied for second at 4? Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith. Guess who's tied for third at 3? Kyrie Irving, Iman Shumpert.
Yep.
So it's all because of LeBron.
And on the flip side of
those guys are in the NBA record books.
LeBron has gotten a lot of wing players paid a lot of money.
Yes. Well, look, Kyle Korver was, when he first came to Cleveland, I thought I liked Kyle Korver in his prime, but he's very clearly on the way down.
Yeah.
And then when they re-signed him this offseason, I think they gave him a 3-year contract. I'm like, he's 36 years old. Yeah. Now he's 37. And guess what? He's playing magnificently because he's such a good fit with LeBron.
And on both sides of the ball, too. He's super scrappy on defense. He's diving for balls, taking charges. He's going to give you a fit. I don't know with rotations-wise how he works, but, man, when he's on ball, he does a very good job of at least giving the player fits.
Well, yeah, and, I mean, he's shooting with a great deal of confidence. And you know why some of these guys – I really believe why these guys are playing with such confidence and their shots are starting to fall, because they think, no big deal if we miss, because guess what? If we do, LeBron's going to carry us anyway.
Right.
So I can play loose and easy and not think about the shots. Yeah. And I know, think about when you're playing pickup basketball and you're on the playground with the best guy in the it's like, we're going to win anyway. So if I miss a couple, big deal. And it makes you shoot with more confidence, I think, as opposed to being tight and I got to make this. So I think that he has helped them become better players by default, just by being on the floor with them.
Yep.
But I also think I saw a few passes. What was it? Game 3, a few passes. He just hit guys right in their shooting pocket from 25 yards away with passes, and they're ready to shoot, and he hits it right on their hand. And I mean, that goes a long way in helping guys make shots too. So
you have
having him on the floor really helps.
Who has one of the quickest releases in the NBA. He doesn't even have his
amazing.
As long as his shoulders are turned, half turned, quarter, doesn't matter. It's pretty much buckets. J.R. Smith is very similar, but he'll just shoot it when he has draped with three people. I heard someone say JR is the best at making the worst shots.
And they both have, they both have very different approaches to off-season training. Kyle Korver does stuff like scuba diving, running on the beach, all this weird stuff that keeps him interested in staying in shape because it's fun, whereas JR basically plays golf. So it's, but you know what? It works for both of them.
Yep. I want to talk about one of the trade deadline additions that's getting the most playing time, Sam, and that's George Hill. What we've seen Ty Lue do this series is move away from the Larry Nance. He hasn't really gotten many minutes. We'll talk on Rodney Hood, hopefully more in depth here in just a couple moments. The fourth player in that, George Hill, and the fourth one. Who was the fourth one?
I'm sorry, George Hill.
Hood. I'm drawing a blank. Larry Nance and
Jordan Clarkson. Jordan
Clarkson. That's right. He gets some minutes, but George Hill is carrying the brunt of those minutes. How huge was he in this Raptors series, and do you see him moving forward?
Well, again, going back to the whole Kevin Love thing, I think that he makes a huge difference in that because they really operate well together, and I think that George Hill makes finding, as does LeBron, those guys make finding Kevin Love a priority. Mm-hmm. And I just think George Hill kind of settles things when he's out there as a veteran point guard.
Yes.
He kind of controls not only the tempo a little bit, but he also, I think, helps control and keep players' emotions. Especially when a guy like Love or even J.R. Smith or those guys are struggling. I think George Hill's that one positive guy who says, you know what, it's going to be all right. You're going to get the next one. So I think that that's invaluable with this team. He's a steadying hand very underrated, Chase, by the way, in terms of what he's been able to produce points-wise. You watch the game, you think, George Hill had 4 points, and then you see he had 12 points and 6 assists or something.
Right. One of the things I noticed is he helps control the tempo of the game too. Things just kind of seem to flow and really more for the Cavs' pace. He handles defensive pressure very, very well, and he knows how to get to the spot and get things started. When he's out, and whether it's Clarkson coming up or someone else, it just feels like we're kind of in like this. My grandpa had a riding lawnmower, and they had 3 speeds. He had like off, turtle, and rabbit, right? And it just seems like when Clarkson or someone else takes the ball up, it's in rabbit speed, and you just always got to be on set, ready to do whatever. George Hill does a really good job of like controlling the tempo, controlling defensive pressure, and not letting that affect the pace of the game.
Yeah, he can play at all those different speeds, and that's very beneficial to them. My favorite play probably in the entire, other than LeBron's amazing shooting, but the one play that made me laugh, well, 2 plays made me laugh, they both took place in Game 4. One was George Hill dribbling the ball down the floor, and LeBron and Kyle Korver and J.R. Smith and Love all standing out on the perimeter, and all the Raptors defenders just ran out to the perimeter to defend those guys.
Yep.
And George Hill kind of looked like, really? You're just going to give me a wide open lane to the basket?
Yeah, that was the first quarter, right?
Yeah, he even paused and was like, okay. So then he just drove right down and dunked it without anybody else around him. My second favorite play was after the whistle, and I tweeted it out. Came after the whistle when I retweeted a writer for the Cleveland Browns reporter from the Cleveland Plain Dealer or Cleveland.com tweeted out a shot of, he said that this series is going so bad for the Raptors they can't even block shots after the whistle. You know how guys like to do that?
Yeah.
And somebody shot it. I think it was J.R. Smith, and one of the Raptors went up to block it, after the whistle, and he blocked it, and it went backwards and right into the Cavs hoop.
Oh my gosh!
If you want to check out my Twitter at Amico Hoops, it's on there. The video's on there. It's great stuff.
What better? That's just a great symbol of the series. It's just kind of like that's just how it went, man. Yeah. So, and I like when Clarkson comes in the game, and I've heard LeBron say this. He encourages people like Clarkson and Hill to like take your shots. Like, don't play it intimidated. Like, go in and get yours. And Clarkson takes that literal. I mentioned before, when he's in the game, he reminds me so much of balling at the YMCA, man. That guy just really works on creating his own shot. That's let's talk about Rodney Hood, another trade line acquisition who is kind of the complete opposite of George Hill at this point, right? And reports were out after Game 4 that he refused to enter the game, and kind of was one of the lone dark spots on the team in this series. What can you tell us about that situation, Sam?
Well, of course, Jason Lloyd, the excellent reporter for The Athletic, the Cavs beat reporter, broke that story, and he from what Jason Lloyd reported was that Rodney Hood was given an opportunity to play in garbage time after losing his spot in the rotation to Cedi Osman, and rightfully so. I mean, look, Rodney Hood doesn't want to struggle. He doesn't want to not play well, but eventually, if he's not getting the job done, this is the man's league, a professional sport, and you've got to turn to someone else, especially in the playoffs. I mean, he has not made a 3-pointer since Game 2 against the Pacers.
This is what I call the Rodney Hood special, Sam. It's a and one foul on defense when a return trip on offense with a brick, and that's just I feel like has been his story.
That's been his game, unfortunately, in the playoffs, and he's averaging less than 5 points a game, like 4.5 points a game.
Bad, man.
Has missed 10 straight 3-pointers.
But why would you not put Cedi Osman in? There was nothing Rodney Hood was doing that Cedi couldn't do, and Cedi could do all of that better.
I don't think it was about that so much, because we saw Rodney Hood cheering Cedi on. I think it was more or less the game was clearly out of hand, with plenty of time left, and it was clearly garbage time. I mean, the Cavs turned that game into the final 12 minutes being garbage time, and Lou said, Rodney, go on. And I think Rodney kind of was upset, thinking, I'm not a garbage time player. Sure. I'm a regular part of the rotation.
That's not why the Cavs traded for me.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, those things in the heat of the moment can happen. They can. This is it doesn't make him a bad guy. It just makes him a professional athlete and a competitor who probably made the wrong decision, because, look, you go in there in garbage time like Larry Nance Jr. did and score 8 points in 6 minutes and get what do you have, 3 rebounds, Larry Nance Jr.? He used that to say, I'm going to get myself going, show what I can do a little bit here, and maybe get myself back into the rotation.
Yeah.
Maybe he won't, but he went out there, he did the right thing, and he played very well. And I think he was 4 of 4 shooting, so that was an opportunity for Rodney Hood to do something similar. It's like preseason. You go out and you try to get yourself going again. And that's an opportunity lost for him. But Chase, according to, my sources and a few other reports, he met with Kobe Altman, the Cavs GM, apologized and said he felt badly about it, and all is forgiven, and appears they're moving on.
Good. And a lot of these players are really young. Rodney Hood, really young.
25 years old.
Really young. Yeah. And if it's anything we've seen, Sam, is when it gets down to crunch time, the Brown and company are going to go with the people who have been in the wars, who understand the pressure, who have lived in this pressure before. And so I honestly thought it was brilliant of Ty Lue to give this Game 3, give some of those minutes to Cedi Osman, give these young guys an experience of playoff basketball where the pressure is different, where the intensity is different. And they've never experienced that before. What better time than on Game 4, at home, and you're not going to have a more favorable opportunity in round 2 of the playoffs to get some of this experience. So hopefully he kind of learns his lesson, and because you never know when your number is going to be called. You just never know. A player like Larry Nance, who's long, athletic, tries super hard. We might turn to you in the finals whenever we need someone to stop Harden, you know what I mean, or Durant. You just never know when your number is going to be called. And so it's good to see him get out there and get his for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, is that you never know when you're going to need a guy like a Cedi Osman or Larry Nance Jr. and they've got to be ready for when their numbers are called.
So for the 4th straight year, the Cavs advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. Sam, let's talk about that matchup. Currently, the series and the other side of the East is still going on. Philly, Boston. Who would you rather have the Cavs play? The young incoming 76ers or the overachieving number 1 defense in the league, Celtics?
I think the Sixers, for one, they'd be dead tired because they'd have to win another 3 straight to overcome Boston, they'd be satisfied thinking, hey, we were the first team ever to overcome a 3-0 deficit, and they're young. And they'd be, I think the Sixers would be a better matchup overall for the Cavs in terms of, the Sixers aren't necessarily a super young team, but their players, their 2 best players, Simmons and Embiid, are first time in the postseason. So that would definitely work to Philly's disadvantage. But that said, Boston's, I think, going to win the series. Even without Kyrie Irving, they play hard. They're so well coached. I'll say this, Chase. I'm afraid that we're going to go back to criticizing Ty Lue a lot in this series, just like we did against Indiana, because Brad Stevens is such an excellent coach, and being outcoached by him is no crime, because he does that to a lot of people. So that's going to be a tough. I think it'll be tougher than the Boston series last season when the Cavs won in 5. I think that with Boston having home court advantage, it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough.
Yep.
They're a physical team too, like Indiana, and we saw the problems Indiana gave the Cavs in the first round.
Yep. I tend to agree. I think I'd rather have the Cavs play the 76ers. Just I think it'd be more fun to see them go up against these young guys. But I think it's going to be the Celtics. I wouldn't mind seeing this got to 6 or 7 though, to kind of get some more wear and tear on the Celtics' legs and
sure,
Cavs a little rest. Although one of us on the podcast, Sam, did call a Raptor sweep. I forget who. But
a Raptor sweep?
No, I mean a Cavs sweep. One of us on here did predict a Cavs sweep.
I guarantee it wasn't me. I'm pretty sure I said Raptors in 7, or did I say Cavs in 6? I said Cavs in 6.
Yeah, you said Cavs in 6.
I didn't think the Raptors were going to beat them. I thought the Cavs would. I thought they'd give them a much tougher fight. But yeah, you said a Cavs sweep.
I did.
You should be proud of yourself. We should have promoted that right at the very beginning. I don't think anybody else said that in all of the world.
It's all right. It's all right, man. I'm also a big Browns fan, so I'll say they're going to sweep the Eastern Conference Finals too. I don't care.
I'm a huge Browns fan, and I dream of 7-9. I do. If they go 7-9, and maybe someday I can just be a guest on your Browns podcast.
Hey, yeah, we need to get Jeremy on this one too.
Be like, hey, this guy knows nothing about the Browns, but he's a huge fan, and it's not like I don't know nothing, but
right, it'll be fun.
I could make great jokes. Hey, or really bad jokes.
We'll make it happen, man. Hey, let's talk about the West. The West, really, really quick.
Sure.
We have the Rockets Jazz series and the Pelicans Warriors series. Both of them pretty much going as expected on script. Do you see anything out of the ordinary that Cavs fans need to be kind of aware of going on in this series?
No, I mean, it's pretty much the same old for the Warriors. I think it's going to be interesting to see Houston and Golden State, with Houston having home court.
Yes.
If Golden State had home court, I'd be like, Warriors in 6 or whatever. I still think the Warriors will win that series because I just think that they just have, more talent. They've been together longer. And I'm still not sold on James Harden in huge situations. So, I think the only thing that you can hope for if you're a Cavs fan is, number one, get past Boston. But number 2, hope that series plays out, consists of lots of drama, and wears out both teams. And then by the time Golden State or Houston gets to the finals, they've already had their huge battle. And maybe if you're the Cavs, you can take advantage of that like you did in 2016, where the Warriors played so hard during the regular season to get that 73-9 record that come June, they were pooped.
And then they had to have that come back against the Thunder too.
Right. Yeah, they were down.
They should have lost.
They should have. Well,
can you imagine how things would have been
Kevin Durant doesn't get enough credit for blowing a 3-1 lead too.
Right. But can you imagine how that offseason would have been different if all of a sudden the Warriors don't make it back and the Cavs are playing the Thunder? I mean, maybe Durant stays because they made the fight. It's crazy to think how I think butterfly effect.
If Oklahoma City had won that series, I think Durant would have stayed. As little as he enjoyed playing with Westbrook, I think it would have been gutted it out. But
so one of the things I noticed, Sam, is the national narrative kind of went from the Rockets. This is their year to the finals, and then when Steph Curry came back and had that incredible first game back, Like, nope, never mind. The Warriors are here again. I think I just monitoring Steph's health. And if Steph is playing at 100%, then I really think, sorry Rockets, but the Warriors, there's no other team like it in NBA history. And
they're just too, in this day and age, they're like the old Boston Celtics where they had Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Robert Parrish. I mean, you basically have 5 all-stars starting.
Yeah.
And then the old Lakers had Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm missing somebody in there, AC Green. So you had 4 or 5 all-stars starting there, and it's the same thing with Golden State. Their center isn't an all-star, but the other 4 guys are, and top-level all-stars. And here's the thing about them, Chase. They play basketball, love them or hate them. They play basketball as you would read about it on your Wikipedia page, as it was described. Here's how basketball is played. And, the Golden State Warriors do that. They move the basketball. They don't spend a lot of time dribbling. They pass and cut, and they know each other. They are a frightening team. And I'll tell you this, what a story. Cleveland and Golden State, 2 downtrodden franchises historically.
Yep.
Just historically, and they could meet for the 4th straight time in the NBA Finals. That is great, a great story for the whole league, but obviously for both of those franchises.
Sam, how do they determine NBA Finals home court? Do they alternate every year, or is it all?
It's not like baseball; it's home best record. So,
okay, so the West is going to have home court.
The West will definitely have home court now that Toronto's knocked out. Toronto had the 2nd best record in the league after Houston. So, obviously, as the Cavs, as a number 4 seed in the East, have no home court ever again this year.
Which, do you think that is even a problem?
No, you have to win on the road if you're going to win a championship. And you have to do it probably once every series. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Cavs have to do it at least once against Boston to win that series. They'd have to do it against Houston or Golden State. So, you have to, and LeBron says that repeatedly, Chase, you got to win on the road. And LeBron always says, I like playing on the road more than home.
On record, that he likes being away. He likes going there. So
it's fun. If you can deflate the home crowd, that's fun. Yeah.
And as we close here, that was one of the really cool things I love to see. Game 3, Game 4, LeBron is having fun. He is, at the end of the games, very engaged, very team-oriented, very laughing, doing his handshakes, sicking her. That's the kind of LeBron I want to see. I don't want to see the victory. LeBron goes to the locker room really quick. LeBron, I don't want to see, you know what I mean? I want to see this kind of LeBron, not only because I think it helps the team, but also it makes me feel like he's going to say.
Well, that's a big thing. And I can tell you, I don't know this as a fact, just as an observer like everybody else.
Yep.
He seems to be enjoying this playoff run more than anyone I've ever seen, including with Miami.
Yep.
I think he did not like the whole situation in Miami in terms of the way he felt. He felt kind of like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, he's not a bad guy. He's taking his hometown team, carrying them, putting them on his shoulders after Kyrie Irving left. And I think he's having a way better time than when Kyrie Irving was here. I really do.
100%.
I think he's having a great time with this team, and he loves these teammates.
Yep.
And,
getting through that
run, he's going to really value, I think, when he retires.
Getting through that round 1 adversity, and everything kind of ebbs and flows, right? And it seems like the Cavs are peaking at the perfect time. And our recommend, Sam, if I don't mind speaking on behalf of you, but we need to enjoy this team. We need to enjoy what we have in LeBron. Whatever happens over the next 3 weeks, no matter how many more games we win or lose, we are witnessing the best player on the planet, and he plays for our favorite team. And we just swept the number 1 team in the East in the second round of the playoffs. And it's a really, really good time to be a Cavs fan, Sam.
That's exactly right. And I think that just saddle up and enjoy this ride, because this has been, look, you're not going to see this forever. And this is very truly I think one of the most dynamic moments, maybe other than the 64 Browns that none of us really saw for this generation, and Generation X and the millennials and whatever the kids whatever my kids are going to be called.
Right.
I think that this has been a historic thing to see in Cleveland sports history, and it's it's not going to last forever. So just don't get too stressed out. Like, oh, they're not going to beat the Warriors. They're not going to beat the Rock. Ty Lue's a terrible coach. Just enjoy it. Watch LeBron James and appreciate this team and what it's become.
Enjoy seeing on the papers the greatness of LeBron. Enjoy when you're at the car shop and the TV's muted, seeing is LeBron the greatest of all time. Enjoy all these talking heads saying that LeBron, as they list off this endless list of records he holds and how many wins he has and all these postseason. Like, enjoy this moment. Don't take it for granted. Just listen to it and smile and take a deep breath and say, this is special. This is super cool. LeBron James is playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he has them playing the best basketball they've played almost probably all season to do that to the Raptors. And let's do your best to cheer them on the rest of the playoffs. That does it for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. And also thank you for checking out AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. Do us a favor. Subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Listen, it does help with iTunes and other search algorithms. Plus, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops, and to catch all of his work and writings at AmicoHoops.net and ProHoopsDigest.com. Hey, also, if you're looking to make a couple extra bucks and you want to improve your reach of your business, we are looking for sponsors for this podcast. Maybe you have an online venture or you're just starting out in business. Email podcast@cavsonthebreak.com or reach out to Samurai and we can get those conversations started. Sam, any final thoughts this morning or this afternoon, or I even know what day it is? Any final thoughts?
There are some final thoughts, and I think that this is a key one. You said to enjoy all of that, but make sure you enjoy the Cavs on the Break podcast as well.
Boom! Boom. There you go.
That's all I got. Sorry.
Bringing you the premier, the best Cavs podcast available. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on iTunes, Google Play. Whatever, however, we are there. And we do thank you so much for downloading and listening. You guys are the best. And for corresponding with us on Twitter, here we go, Sam, my favorite part. Ready?
I'm ready. I can't wait.
Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.